Hello, class. It is your instructor, Dr. Arnold, and I would like to give you a very short lecture on the transformations of war and how World War II completely transforms American society in a number of ways and creates the post-war America as we come to know it then and now. In many ways, we're still living out the legacy of World War II. I would argue there are three great crises of the 20th century which completely transform and make America into what it is today, and those crises are the Great Depression and World War II and then the Cold War. So we're going to be talking about World War II today, but also pointing towards the Cold War. I'm going to talk about four different ways that World War II transforms America. The first is in foreign policy. The second is in politics and the role of government. The third is in our economy, and the fourth is in society at large. Believe me, I'm going to try to do this in about 10 minutes. I want to give you the big points to kind of give you a framework on which to hang all the facts that you're receiving in your textbook and in your readings this week. And hopefully this framework will help you to have a better sense of how to argue and discuss the changes wrought by World War II when we get to our discussion later in this module. The first transformation then is in foreign policy. Very quickly, just to note that World War II moves us from an isolationist nation to one that is an internationalist, globalist nation. I don't have globalist up here, but I should. Or we could say interventionist nation, a nation that intervenes, a nation that has military bases all around the country, all around the world, excuse me. During the 1930s, the U.S. Congress passed 5 neutrality acts. The U.S. refused to allow Jewish refugees to enter the country. The U.S. had refused to back international organizations like the League of Nations that was created after World War I. Even though it was Wilson's idea, our president's idea, Congress refused to ratify that treaty, and we did not join the League of Nations. We were an isolationist nation. That's why I had you read Gerald Nye this week. Gerald Nye is an isolationist, and he reflects the spirit of many Americans. It's not an extreme view in the 1930s. Remain out of the affairs of Europe and the rest of the world. It's none of our business. The business of America is business, doing what we do best, building railroads, building skyscrapers, keeping our economy running. That's what we do. Our foreign policy until World War II was predicated upon an almost complete lack of involvement in the rest of the world, save where we had direct economic and strategic interests. But by 1945, the U.S. would be a world power, and we would have a very active, some would say even aggressive and interventionist foreign policy. We would create the United Nations. We would locate its headquarters in New York City. We would create NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. We would become engaged in the Cold War on a global scale. We would never again retreat from affairs in the rest of the world, and our recent involvements in the Middle East, in the Balkans, in Africa reflect this continuing example of a large footprint in our foreign policy, very different from how we were before World War II. We're a different kind of nation with regards to foreign policy. So that's one big idea. The next big idea, a few more points here on this slide, but they're all kind of saying the same thing, is the role of the federal government is transformed. And it's transformed during the New Deal, which was in response to the economic crisis of the Great Depression. But it's also transformed in response to World War II. The federal government mobilizes the economy on the home front. What does that mean? It means that the federal government spends money to build bombers, planes, tanks. It builds factories. It builds rubber plants. Or it contracts, more to the point, it contracts from Dow Chemical and Lockheed Martin and Hughes Aircraft and Boeing and Kaiser and all these big corporations, Chrysler and GMC and American Motors, all of them are going to receive money from Uncle Sam to build the weapons of war, to win the war. Keynesianism is a kind of economics that comes about during the New Deal. John Maynard Keynes, is a liberal economist who says that the federal government plays a role in priming the pump of the economy by spending money, even deficit spending, in order to generate demand within the economy and generate jobs and generate demand within the economy. It's an important idea because if people aren't working, they can't spend money, and our economy is built upon a consumer model. Military Keynesianism then is not, like building dams. That would be an example of just Keynesianism. Build a dam, you employ people, you create demand for concrete and for rebar and for copper wire. You give people a paycheck, they spend the paycheck, right? You can see how that creates a snowball effect of generating demand within the economy. Military Keynesianism is the same idea applied to the military industrial complex. You contract with DuPont to create an atomic bomb at Hanford, or you contract with Dow Chemical, you contract with Lockheed Martin, with Hughes, with General Dynamics. You contract with these big corporations. They hire people, they build things. Uncle Sam pays for it. Pretty soon there's full employment. People have money, they spend money. This is Keynesianism, but for military purposes. This is the beginning of what Dwight D. Eisenhower, the Republican president during the 1950s, will call the military-industrial complex. We could, in this class, call it the warfare state, to contrast it in some ways with the welfare state, but in some ways, as I'll mention in a second, the warfare state and the welfare state go hand in hand. Excuse me. Okay, I believe we're going again here. Sorry about that. I was interrupted by a phone call. So, the military-industrial complex is just that relationship, that complex between Uncle Sam and large corporations, and it's clearly evident in our current economy and all the different companies, Sikorsky and Boeing and Hanford and everything like that. Hanford is a great example, in fact, of something that's created during wartime, a kind of military Keynesianism. Uncle Sam paid billions of dollars to build the atomic bombs. It also employs 50,000 people. It serves purposes of defense, but it also serves the purpose of providing jobs. And again, whatever you may think of that, that's what it does, and our area is a living example of that. And the Cold War, in fact, then instead of just mothballing everything after World War II and saying, well, we don't need this stuff anymore, we're at peacetime, the Cold War creates the preconditions for continuing to expand the military-industrial complex. And again, Hanford is a good example of that. Hanford is reaching its peak by the 1960s, creating fissionable material for warheads because we're in an arms race with the Soviet Union by that time. So in some ways, at places like Hanford, the warfare state and the welfare state go hand in hand. In other words, we're producing money. Excuse me, I'm sorry. A colleague was just waving at me and completely distracted me. Producing money. No, we're not producing money. We're producing jobs. Yeah, that's maybe producing money within the economy. We're producing money. We're giving people jobs. We're also then arming the nation, I guess, serving the defense purposes of the nation. So the warfare state and the welfare state work hand in hand. There are other programs where this is true, like the GI Bill. But anyway, the federal government is going to expand its scope. The executive power is going to be expanded during World War II, and it's never really going to go away. Presidents have subsequently gained more and more power. We haven't fought in a declared war since World War II. In other words, Congress hasn't declared a war. Presidents have sent troops into the field without declared wars, and the federal government has gotten bigger and bigger along with the military-industrial complex. So these are some other large ideas to think about with regard to the role of government in society, and the World War II is playing a role in that transformation. Third thing is pretty clear. The economy is transformed by World War II. Production becomes the hallmark feature of World War II and our effort in World War II. We create new technologies. These new technologies, like big high-flying bombers, allow us to pursue new military strategies like strategic bombing, which become so important in the fluid battle lines of World War II. And it's that strategy then that is the core of the U.S. victory, and therefore the U.S. victory relies upon the ability of the U.S. to produce weapons of war and to do it very, very efficiently and bountifully. And so the home front is actually, as important as the battlefront, as the nation becomes mobilized, as the economy becomes mobilized, as jobs are in abundance, as labor is scarce, as wages go up, as Americans become production soldiers on the home front, more production, and of course, segueing into our final point, and that is the transformation of society. Here's a female production worker, an icon of a an iconic image of a female production worker. This is the image of Rosie the Riveter, created by a government propaganda campaign to put Americans at ease, that Americans could play a role in the war effort without losing their femininity, and of course go back to the home after the war. Well, guess what? They didn't go back to the home after the war. Some of them did, but 5 million of them stayed within the workplace. So transforming society involved relationships within society, including gender relationships. Women are going to step up in new ways. They're going to wear dungarees and things like that that weren't exactly appropriate clothing before wartime. Women are going to get war jobs. The propaganda campaigns, again, encouraging women to join the workforce, and women do in overwhelming numbers. The picture on the left there also shows African American women, and of course that's the other social transformation that I wanted to mention, and that's the transformations of race relations as suggested by this Boeing publicity photograph, where you have two women, a black man and a white man, working together collectively for the war effort for Boeing. Of course, this hadn't been the case at the beginning of the war. Boeing refused to hire black machinists, refused to promote blacks into skilled worker positions, but it was during the wartime that the federal government FDR issued Executive Order, I'm going to forget the number, 8802, I believe, creating the Fair Employment Practices Commission and prohibiting the discrimination in the defense industries on the basis of race. One could say that both the women's movement as well as the civil rights movement comes out of the transformations wrought by World War II. In just a few short years, America is entirely transformed. America is transformed from a nation that was in the 11th year of the Great Depression, where unemployment rates had averaged 17% throughout the Depression, to a country of prosperity, to a country where the unemployment rate was almost nothing. America was transformed from an isolationist nation to a nation that was international, global, and situated upon a summit of power, of world power, as Churchill put it in the post-war period. The federal government was transformed to a much more active federal government with expanding roles with the warfare state and welfare state, as we'll find, and American society was transformed as well, as people moved to cities, to defense industries, to take jobs. People moved from the rural South to the urban North and the West, as the population was mobilized in new ways, as people began to forego their prejudices and work together, as race riots also wreaked havoc upon social tranquility during the wartime. And we could say, again, the core of civil rights and women's rights are emerging during this time. So there's some ideas to think about with regard to World War II. I can't go into a full-fledged lecture. I need to stop this lecture already and let you get back to your reading and discussing online. Good luck.